Hi all, it's your boy here, R Star. I'm here to teach you how to play Ideologue, the board game I've been making. So if you haven't watched my other videos, Ideologue, the idea is you are trying to make a nation that follows certain ideologies. You're going to compete with the other players, the other nations, and you're going to try and prove that your strategy, your nation, is the most powerful and you win the game. So, at its core, Ideologue is a management game. I built this game and I wanted players to have their turns at the same time. I hate waiting in games, so I had that core idea built in. Uh, what you're going to do is try to manage your resources. You're going to trade, you're going to fight other players, and you're going to try and win the game by having the most population. So, there's five things you manage in Ideologue. That's knowledge, resources, wealth, trade goods, and population. Walking through each one of these, what they mean. Knowledge in this game kind of represents the idea of how receptive your population, your nation is to new ideas. So when you accumulate knowledge in the game, you're going to spend it to buy civics. These are things that are going to make your civilization, give them bonuses, make them more powerful. Resources, the idea is food, minerals, fuel, metal, stuff like that. So you do need to feed your population to keep them alive, but you can also craft resources into trade goods, which are valuable and can and buy you more of these different supplies later in the round. Uh, then there's wealth. This is the idea of kind of how much economic power your nation has. If you have wealth, you can pretty much convert to population, resources, knowledge. It's kind of you can spend it to get almost anything. So it's very flexible. That's what you're going to be converting your trade goods into. So these trade goods, they're represented by copper, silver, gold, and platinum quality. Uh, the value of each of these, obviously, platinum is worth more than gold, which is worth more than silver, which is worth more than copper. You're going to convert these things to wealth in order to buy all those other goodies like population and knowledge. And this population I've been mentioning is you need to upgrade your military infrastructure and technology, which I'm going to get into in the next slides here. It also grows every turn. So if you have a lot of population, it's going to grow exponentially as you go through the rounds. At the end of the game, the player with the most population wins. So it's something you want to manage to try. It doesn't matter if you have low population for the early rounds, but at the end of the game, you want to make sure you have a large population in order to try and win it. So if you're playing the board game, these different values I mentioned, resources, wealth, knowledge, trade goods, and population, you're going to be trading these, you're going to be spending these, they're going to be going up and down in value. But also, there's three things that are upgrades, and upgrades are military, infrastructure, and technology. The idea of upgrades is such as military represents your personnel and equipment. So as you get more military, it's kind of the idea is you get spears to guns, tanks, and so on. Uh, it's going to protect your resources from your other opponents taking your stuff, but it's also going to allow you to attack other opponents and take their stuff. Infrastructure, the idea is kind of buildings, roads, stuff like that. And the idea is that if you have good infrastructure, it's going to accelerate your accumulation of knowledge. So it's build infrastructure to get extra knowledge each turn. Technology, the idea of get the fire, the wheel, printing press, electricity, all these different technologies kind of build towards our modern world that we have here. And the idea is that if you have more technology, you're able to gather more resources from your surroundings. So these upgrades, once you get them, you cannot trade them. They cannot be lost. So you can kind of spend your stuff, get them, and then you always have it. So the objective of this game is you're going to go through 6 ages, and at the end, your player with the most population wins. So we're going to go through the ancient, bronze, medieval, industrial, atomic, and digital rounds. Sixth round, the digital round, is the last round. And each one of these rounds is made up of 7 phases. So we're going to walk through these phases and what happens in each one. And there's the auction, crafting, trade, upgrade, supply, combat, and lastly the upkeep phase. They always go in that order. So the game starts, and every player has 6 population, 15 resources, and 40 knowledge. We're going to enter the civic auction phase. So you take, in this case, it would be the ancient civics. You shuffle them. One's going to be flipped over, and the players are going to bid on that civic. It's a secret bid, so no one knows what anyone else is bidding until everyone agrees, okay, everyone's made a bid. Flip over and show how much knowledge you bid. Player who bid the most wins the civic. And then the other players, if they lost, they just take their knowledge back, and a new civic is flipped, and everyone bids on that. So you can buy as many civics as you wanted during the auction phase. If there is 3 civics are passed, so either no one bids on it, then the auction phase ends and you move on to the next phase. Something I'll mention when we look at the anatomy of a civic here is you can only have 2 of each type of civic. So you'll notice in this example here we have barbarism. It's an offensive civic. That's the little 1. That's the symbol it shows. So you can have 2 offensive civics. If you gain a third, you've got to discard down to 2. But you can have many. You can have defensive civics. You can have resource civics. You can have all these different types, but you just can't have more than 2 that has the same symbol. You'll see that it has the minimum bid to start the auction on there. And also, I just wanted to point out on the bottom it says what phase the card is used in. It can only be used, for this example, this barbarism card can only be used during the combat phase. Uh, Unless if it says otherwise, each civic can only be played once each round. You have to wait till the next round in order to play it again during its appropriate phase. You can play them in any order you want to kind of try and maximize your gains from these civics. And you can also, I mentioned, discard a civic in order to get a new one. If you want, maybe you've already got 2 of one type, you can get a new one. So after the auction phase, move to the crafting phase. Here you're going to choose to spend resources in order to roll dice. Uh, you make a roll. We use 6-sided dice. If you gain, let's say you have 2 dice that are the same, we call that a double. If you have 3 dice that have the same face, it's a triple, so on and so forth. And you get different trade goods depending on what you rolled. So for an example here, this person rolled, they spent 10 resources to roll 10 dice. They got 4 2s, 3 6s, and then a 1, a 3, and a 5. So in that case, the 4 2s would gain them a platinum. The 3 6s got them a gold. And then for each 1, 3, and 5, they got a copper for each of those. They end up with 3 coppers. So players decide what to build, and then once they're done, everyone moves on to the trade phase. So now you can trade goods, population, resources, knowledge, all these different things. Keep in mind that when you get to the upkeep phase, you're going to discard any trade goods that you still have by that point. So you can only cash in one type. You can only cash in either, if you have, let's say, copper and silver, you got to choose which one you're going to cash in eventually. So you want to try and gather one type of trade good. It kind of encourages trade. So if you got some gold and silver, you want to try and offload one of those to another player. You may have civics that utilize those, so keep that in mind. So maybe you have a civic where you can spend a gold to gain something. So make sure you hold on to gold to utilize that. After that trade phase, move to the upgrade phase. And here, so I mentioned before, you can upgrade military infrastructure and technology. You can see a little chart I put on the side over there. It's probably complicated, clear as mud. But the idea being that if you wanted to upgrade, let's say you're at level 1 military, if you want to get to level 2 military, an upgrade is always going to cost a population, and then it's either going to cost a copper, silver, gold, or platinum, depending at the level it's currently at. You also gain bonuses depending on what level you're at. So for a quick example, if you have level 4 military, you can see underneath the 4 there that you gain 5 defense and 3 offense. If you have level 8 infrastructure, you gain 150 knowledge each round. And similarly, technology, if you have level 9 technology, you gain 18 resources each round. So the benefit of these upgrades is when we get to the supply phase, you're going to gain knowledge from the infrastructure you hold. You're going to gain resources from the technology you hold. For each population, for every 5 you own, you gain extra ones, so you can kind of see that exponential growth I talked about there. This is also when you cash in one type of trade good. So you either cash in silver, gold, platinum, for example, and for each one of those, you gain the corresponding wealth. So if I cash in 5 silver, I get 5 times 3 equals 15 wealth for that. Now we move to the combat phase. So I'm going to go through an example after this. I'm just going to go through these points here, and then we'll go through an example. So in combat, we have defense, offense, and spoils. So first of all, you calculate your defense and offense from your military upgrades and civics. You figure that out. Once it's sorted, players calculate their spoils by removing resources equal to their defense from resources and wealth, equal to the defense from their wealth. So the idea here being that your defense is going to protect your resources and your wealth. Players are not going to be able to take those from you. Whatever you are not protecting, you got to kind of shove to the center of the table and say, this is up for grabs. Then you order the players from highest defense to lowest. If there's a tie, the player with the most population wins. If there's still a tie, then just roll a dice to decide. Players take turn attacking in order, so the player with the highest defense gets to choose who they want to attack first, and you go down the roster. An attacker can take any combination of wealth or resources from their opponent that they're attacking, and they don't. Once you take those, they don't go into your spoils. So if you want to think about it, once you pillage those resources, they're protected as well. You don't have to worry about someone else taking those from you. Okay, after the last player's turn, then whatever was not taken from you just returns back to your possession, and you can use those for the next round. So this example, we have Cleopatra, Gandhi, and Napoleon. You can see kind of their stats there. So their offense and defense were calculated using their military and civics, and boom, this is where we're standing right now. So I just put those stats over to the left there. We're going to walk through the combat. So we talked about the spoils. Cleopatra spoils. She has 10 resources and 0 wealth. So you can see her 10 defense is protecting her 10 wealth, and 10 defense is protecting 10 resources of the 20 she has. So the remaining 10 are her spoils. Similarly with Napoleon and Gandhi. So the attack order in this case is Gandhi, Napoleon, Cleopatra. Again, basing it on their defense, Gandhi having the most. So Gandhi's going to choose not to attack Napoleon, simply because he has no spoils. So he's not going to really gain anything. Maybe he has civics that'll help him, but in this case, he decides he's going to attack Cleopatra, and because his offense is 5, he gets to take 5 things. So in this case, he's taking 5 resources. So now Cleopatra has 5 remaining. So now it's Napoleon's turn. He chooses to attack Gandhi. He takes 4 wealth. So then at the end, Cleopatra chooses again not to attack Napoleon because he doesn't have anything. She attacks Gandhi. And she's only going to get 3 resources and 4 wealth. And you say, well, she has 8 defense. Why doesn't she get 8 things? And again, it's because he was already attacked. That was removed from his spoils. So he only had that amount remaining. He only could take 3 resources, 4 wealth. That's all that he had left in his spoils because Napoleon had already attacked him. So now he has 0 resources and 0 wealth. So that is how that combat would play out. Upkeep phase. So last phase of the round, you figure out if your population is greater than your resources, they're going to starve. You got to feed your population. You don't lose those resources. You don't spend them. You just got to have them. So if you have 10 resources and 7 population, you are going to 10 resources and 7 population, you're going to be completely fine. If it was reversed, if you had 7 resources and 10 population, 3 of them are going to starve. And you keep those resources. You discard any remaining trade goods you have. So if you had tons of gold and platinum and you cash in your platinum and you still have tons of gold, you got to get rid of them now. And you get nothing for them. And then you can convert your wealth, each wealth to 1 population, 1 resources, or 10 knowledge. That's where you get the benefit of holding onto that wealth through that round. So the round is now completed. If it was the digital age that you were in, the game is over and the player with the most population wins. Otherwise, we move, in this case, we're in the Ancient Age. We're going to move to the Bronze Age, and we start an auction for a Bronze Age Civic, and we go through a round just like we did right now. So thanks for sitting through this, and I hope you get a chance to play Ideologue.